In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the inner tie rods on this Honda Accord. Located behind your front wheel, you do need an alignment after this job is done, so keep that in mind. Let's get started. Use a 19mm socket, remove all 5 lug nuts, and then remove the wheel. Let's loosen up the jam nut between the inner and the outer tie rods so we can loosen these up. This is a 24mm jam nut, so use a wrench and break this free. Okay. Now sometimes for this, you may need to use some heat if this is stuck. That's all you want to turn it. Don't go too far with it. Now we can work on the other end. Use a 19mm socket to remove this nut off of the tie rod stud. Now if yours has a cotter pin, you're going to want to remove that first. Ours did not. Now use a hammer, tap the side of the knuckle. That should pop the tie rod free. There it is. Count the amount of turns it takes to remove the outer tie rod so that when we put it back, we can get close to a good alignment. Now, like I said, you still need to get your vehicle aligned after this, but at least the wheels will be somewhat parallel. 17 turns for me, but for you it's going to be different most likely. There's the outer tie rod. To remove this jam nut, which we have to do so we can pull the boot off, I'm going to hold the inner tie rod with some locking pliers. You could use a wrench and go on this cutout, but these are going to hold on a little bit better. Then use a 24mm socket or the wrench you used earlier and finish removing the jam nut. Remove your pliers. Now let's remove the clamp holding on the boot on this end. Pinch it with some pliers. Pull it off. There's an inner clamp as well, and the easiest way to get these off is with a pry bar. If you go right up against it, mine happens to be right here. It could be at any point around the boot. And just give it a quick tap with a hammer through this pry bar. Now with that popped off, remove the boot. It's very stuck on here, so what I'm going to do is put a pocket screwdriver in here, spray rust penetrant. That's going to help me remove it a little bit easier. There we go. There's a washer that's bent over the inner tie rod on each side. We have to straighten that out to unlock the inner tie rod. Take a pry bar and a hammer, tap this open. Do the same on the other side. Now use an inner tie rod removal tool so you can, well, remove the inner tie rod off of the steering rack. This is the type that we're using. There are multiple types, but this one basically grabs onto this ball and socket joint, and you want to tighten this down nice and snug with a wrench. In my particular instance, this is a 17mm that I'm using just to tighten up these mounting nuts. And you want to make sure that they are snug so it can clamp on, otherwise it'll just slip as you try to turn it. Now use a ratchet, if you're using this style tool, and break it free and unthread it. At this point, it is easiest to remove your tool off of the inner tie rod while it's still attached to the vehicle, but also it's not like you can go very far with it. Remove this and remove your inner tie rod. There it is. Take the new inner tie rod and this washer, put this on, bottom it out, and start the threads of the new inner tie rod onto the steering rack. As you thread this on closer, make sure that this washer lines up with those 2 little pins on the 2 slots of the steering rack. Perfect, right there. Put the tie rod tool back on, tighten it up. and snug up the tie rod. You don't need to tighten it up a lot until it bottoms out. Give it a little extra, and that's it. You don't want to twist the rack internally. Remove your inner tie rod tool. Now bend the tabs on the washer to lock in the tie rod. There isn't always a lot of space here, but just do your best. And do the other side as well. The packet of grease that came with your tie rod is to be installed right here. Work that grease in to the joint. And whatever else you have left in the package, I'm going to put right here where the boot goes, just a little bit. It's going to make it not stick in the future. I'm going to take a wire tie and loosely fit it around the end of this boot. That's going to clamp it onto the steering rack for us, but it's easier for me to start the wire tie on out here before this goes on. Now just slide this boot over all the way and push it back so it can seat on the steering rack. Take some pliers and turn and twist the wire tie. That's going to tighten it up on that boot. Sometimes they break off by themselves and they stay tight. Other times you might have to cut off the excess. Put a little bit of anti-seize on these threads. The clamp that covers the boot, if it's weak, I don't recommend reusing it. I recommend just either getting a new one or using a wire tie just like we did on the inner part. Snug it up. And just like the other one, roll it to tighten it, and we'll cut off the excess. Install the new jam nut. This is also going to help work that anti-seize into the threads, so you don't need to spread it evenly all around the threads. This will do that. Take the outer tie rod, apply a little bit of anti-seize on the inside. Now put it back the same amount of turns that it took to remove it. Now let's install the tie rod back in the knuckle. Push it through, start on the mounting nut, and snug it up. 40 foot-pounds is the torque for this mounting nut. There's no cotter pin on this one. If yours had a cotter pin instead of a locking nut, install the cotter pin at this point. Bring the jam nut closer, and once it touches the outer tie rod, take a wrench. This is a 21 millimeter now. Snug it up. All right, just give it a good snug. Now this will have to be loosened up again by your alignment professional. So as long as you make it tight, that should be plenty. And then I straighten out the tie rod so it doesn't sit at an angle on the knuckle. Let's get the wheel on. Start on all 5 lug nuts in a cross pattern, bottom them out, and also in a cross pattern, torque them to 79 foot-pounds. "79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern." Here we go. Double check them all. Now take it for a road test, and don't forget to get an alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.